Hello, everyone. Welcome to the November 17th, 2025 meeting of the Richmond Select Board. I guess we'll start with a welcome and a public comment. Jay?
Thank you. When I joined the Select Board in 2021, it was as an appointed member to replace Cody Quattrochi, who had found that he simply couldn't justify the time that the job took. And I've come to understand Cody's point of view. The reason I asked to be considered for the Select Board was because of, frankly, the George Floyd and the other racial and, well, basically the whole racial equity thing, which was currently at that time a very hot topic. We'd formed Richmond Racial Equity, and we were trying our best to bring forward topics like fair and impartial policing and to make sure that the police department that we had would reflect the town's values and community policing and so forth. And when Cody resigned and the opening was there, I asked to be considered. And that was the main reason I asked to be on the Select Board in the first place. I feel like we've done a lot with that. We've adopted various positions on behalf of racial equity. And so I'm pleased by that. But on the other hand, I didn't just say, okay, we've got that done. I'm going to wander on now. I stayed on the board and was elected to a full term 2 years ago, and find myself here tonight planning to resign. Cut to the chase. I did not want to be chair this past time. I was basically stuck with it because nobody else wanted it. And as was made evident by some meetings where I was at odds with members of the audience, I don't always manage to hold my temper as well as I should. My expectation from people is that everybody's here to fix problems, come up with solutions, and so forth, to be the change that we want to see in the world. That's unfortunately not true. There are many people, I'm looking at some in the audience right now, who are wonderful people and who are very committed to doing the best they can for this town. And then there are people who simply are all about watching the world burn. You may dispute individual people. I'm not going to go down that road. I'm just going to say that I have found it less and less enjoyable and less fulfilling to be on the board when the good that we do is overlooked, but the things that we are less proud of are brought up over and over and over again. And for that reason, well, there's the phrase, if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. And I can't stand the heat. I find that despite putting in many hours each month to try to do the best job I can, I simply leave every select board meeting going, why? And when school children are taught about how democracy works, they tend to get a kind of a rosy picture of how it works. The actuality is nowhere near as rosy as we'd like to think. And I've come to the conclusion that my ability to contribute positively to the acts of the Select Board has come to an end simply because my frustration has gotten to the point where I'm not managing it well. So I am going to stand up in a minute and walk out, having resigned. I'm also going to be resigning my seat on the Water and Sewer Commission because I won't be eligible for it. The Water and Sewer Commission has to have 3 Select Board members, and it has 2 in the form of David and Bard. So one of you two will have to step up until you can appoint a replacement. Whoever is appointed as a replacement will have to stand for election on town meeting day if they want to run for that, or if they just want to be a placeholder, but it'll no longer be my problem. I'm also resigning as a member of any town committee that I'm on. That includes the 4th of July committee. And I wish the best to all members of the Select Board and to the public, especially Bard and David, who have seen this many more years than I have and have done a far better job managing their frustration. I take my hat off to you 2 gentlemen. And I also thank Adam and Caitlin for their service. The thing I'm going to miss the most, of course, is signing purchase orders and warrants at the end of each meeting. That's what I look forward to. But my wife has told me that she'll come up with some and I can just sit at home signing them on Monday nights. So that's what I came to say tonight. I'll be walking out now, and again, thank all the townspeople of Richmond who've been a pleasure to work with over the years.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Recognized or not.
Secretary. Go ahead when you're ready.
Hi, Mary Hool. To whom it may concern, anticipating the opening on the select board, I wish to be considered for this term for your approval until the elections in March can provide a replacement by town vote. As you know, the current select board is somewhat of a singular mind. My history with Richmond Select Board and the town overall is loud and proud. At each meeting where I am present on either side, I offer any opinion or statement, seldom bringing anything that is exclusively for my benefit. I was chair of the select board at a very contentious time. I withstood a harsh special meeting on a real September 11th. The gathering was so large it had to be held at the Camel's Hump cafeteria. Please look it up to see how a person in the chair seat took all the slings and arrows cast at me and maintained composure. Yep. Composure under fire. I was right then and would do everything the same now as I did then. Yes, everything. And we had a walkout of the town administrator who was having an affair with a subordinate in the town administration. I had to find and hire a replacement for building and finalizing the town budget. I did it. And we as a town prevailed. As a lesser person in this leadership person would have crumbled. Respectfully submitted, Mary Hool. And I would like to find out, if possible, when the doors are going to be taken care of. I'd be happy to make the phone call and I will handle it professionally. It will be like this. Hi, this is Mary calling from the town center. Could you please tell me when we're on your schedule to finish the replacement of the doors and hooking up the ADA? Please?
Yeah, Mary, it's Duncan. It's December 10th when the 3 different contractors can align to do that.
Little late to the party. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary.
Their public comment? Chris?
Hello, Chris Granda, former select board member. I actually coincidentally joined the select board on an interim basis after a former select board member stepped down from my first term. And I'd just like to request that the select board publicly post this open position and give this some time for members of the community to consider whether or not they would like to step in. What is the remainder of Jay's term that would be filled?
It would be this town meeting day plus 1 year.
It's about 14 months.
14
right?
months.
So it's,
This can only go through March, though.
Yeah, it's my understanding. So we would appoint until this coming town meeting day, at which point the person who is appointed and anyone else would have to stand election for the remainder of the term.
okay.
So the appointment would only be
It's-
to the
It goes to a
current-
vote.
Yeah, it would be to the next town meeting day, which would be
So the
Okay.
appointment fills the time between the appointment and the first general election. And then that election would be to fulfill that term. To finish
it'd
that
be an
term.
appointment till March and then a 1 year term.
Right,
March.
right, yeah.
A little fun.
And then that wouldn't
Little
upset the
funky.
balance of the
Right.
I
staggering.
think it's
Right.
my understanding by state statute, we have to officially give notice of the resignation within 10 days. and Post it, so we probably won't do that immediately, depending how it is, but we'll probably do that. We'll have to do that within the next 10 days.
Yeah,
I think we'll need a special meeting to have the board vote to post it. And then set a date by which you're going to see letters of interest and then a date on which you'll appoint. So
Great.
maybe later this week, we'll set a 15-minute agenda item or meeting.
I'm just gonna recommend that it be this week
Yeah,
because of next week being the holidays,
Mhm.
and I think we could do this in 20 minutes.
yeah. And it doesn't even have to be at 7 PM. We could do it
Right,
during the
right.
day. If you guys have time. It's fairly procedural, and then we would get notice out to the community that are accepting applications.
thank you.
Just to clarify, at that meeting, we would give official notice of the resignation, say we're accepting applications, and we would give a date by which those applications would need to be received.
Yep, and then a date on which that usually at a regular select board meeting that you would make the appointment.
Great. Any other public comment? Any additions, deletions, or modifications to the agenda? Moving on to the agenda. reminder of upcoming budget meetings. So we have our final working session budget meeting on Monday, December 8th. And then we have a final presentation of the budget, the informational session on January 6th. Both of those would be at 7 PM, correct, Josh?
Yes.
So we have Monday, December 8th and Tuesday, January 6th at 7 PM. Do you have a location for those two? The December 8th will be here, and then Tuesday, January 6th will likely be here. also.
Here as well, because they're gonna be likely painting in the library by that
And
point.
both be available online too. An update on the completion of the ethics training and an acknowledgement form by committee members. You give updated numbers?
Yep, I can pull that up. All right, so then share. Bigger. All right. Oh, Jeff has his hand up. I don't know if that was about budget or ethics.
Oh, Jeff, is that about, what do you have your hand up about? Was that,
It's actually about your budget meetings.
okay, go ahead.
Okay, in the past, I think we had talked about, since we're not doing a town meeting, you know, a regular town meeting where we ask questions and vote on the budget from the floor. There had been some discussion about how the upcoming budget meetings might be different than what they have been in the past. To have a presentation about what the budget is, perhaps having a more in-depth conversation where you might consider making changes after that that meeting. Is that something that you're considering, or will this be more traditional? You know, this is what it is, vote, come to town meeting and vote on it.
Our December 8th meeting will certainly be a working meeting where we'd be more than open to changes. January 6th, I think, we would like to broadly have the budget nailed down, but we would be open to changes too. And we would have enough time to make tweaks after that. I would say if anyone wants to make major structural changes to the budget, December 8th would probably be the time,
It'd be helpful.
or even between now and then, send recommendations and then come on December 8th to follow up and hash that out. So we anticipate both of them being, the budget being flexible in both of those. Obviously, that flexibility changes and shrinks as we get closer to the deadline, as you know how that goes.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any recommendations on how we would warn that differently?
Well,
Just to
you know,
that
you
clear?
could make reference to you know, the vote that we did change from going from voting on the budget from the floor to voting Australian budget. And this would be the opportunity to have the kind of input that you might have had at a town meeting and see if it makes an impact. See if people actually show up. You know, more of a hybrid model. We had talked about one of the things that was discussed at that meeting when we voted to make that change was the possibility for some kind of hybrid models. We're not doing that officially, but we might do it. You know, unofficially. You know, and encourage people to make those kinds of comments.
Great,
But
Jeff.
if the board's okay with it, we can maybe look at some proposed wording to add to the January 6th agenda, like a paragraph to what Jeff's talking about. And then we can add that when we post a January 6th agenda. So I can
Sure.
come with wording in the next
Can
meeting.
we include that? Can you just workshop something to make it clear that the December 8th, when we post that it's a working meeting and people can come and have input? It's not just,
Yeah, I can add something.
You know, are you guys all comfortable with Josh? Just add a blurb to make it clear that anyone that's reading it knows that they're able to come and have input.
Yeah, and it's like stating right now, we've had a couple special budget meetings already. We're in discussion on the budget. You can find it on the town website. I would take a look at it. You know, there's a lot that happens in those meetings, and leading up to the final conversation is a lot of information, a lot of decision points, and a lot of input needed. So they're worth dialing into and they're worth being a part of. So I would encourage everyone to attend those.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. I guess back to ethics training.
Alright. So the numbers on the bottom are as of the last meeting, and the numbers on the top are as of last Thursday, I think it was. So we've picked up a little bit here and there. Volunteers went from 65 to 68% in ethics training. Volunteers went from 74% to 80% in ethics forms signed. So we've started to pick up, still not at 100%, which is our goal. But certainly better than the last number of years. And I think having it on the agenda has helped. And I know Duncan's been sending weekly reminders to everybody to try to get forms in. So we'll
Does anyone have it?
get you in 2 weeks.
Anyone have any questions?
The only comment I'd make is, what do we do differently to catch, or interact with people who have yet to do it? And the biggest cohort is in the fire department, right? That's what I was looking at. So I just contemplate what we do to reach out to people, as opposed to, we could keep sending emails, I suppose.
I agree, yeah.
I think we had talked at one point about asking chairs of various groups or committees to put it on their agenda to ask people to do it. And so maybe we can do that in a targeted way.
I know Duncan's been reaching out to chairs. I'll have him ask to put it on agenda too.
I also am looking at the total numbers on the fire department side, and I wonder, if Jerry's gone through that list. I'm sure he has, of, who's been in contact for some time or not in contact for some time, and make sure that that list is up to date with people who are very active.
Yeah, I think we did look at that list as far as who's active. Some are more active than others. Some are still on the list, even though they only maybe show up to one call a month. But that might be some of the folks that haven't signed just because they're not actively engaged.
Yeah,
I'll follow up with Jerry to see if he has ideas too.
yeah, maybe something that the assistant chief can help out with as well.
Yeah, very cool. We used to have liaisons to specific departments. Do we still have liaisons? Because that would be a good person to tap for that, to say, hi, please do this. And a liaison seems to me the neutral person that would be able to do something like that. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary.
I turned off your Bluetooth as I'm trying to troubleshoot.
I guess our next item, an action item, consideration of appointing a Richmond representative to the Chittenden Unit for Special Investigation, or CUSI. I believe Jay was our previous representative, and he had resigned when he resigned as chair. It doesn't necessarily need to be a member of the select board. It can be any member of the community. My understanding, right? And we have an application.
We do.
Yes.
Logan Haig, who's here with us tonight.
Logan, want to tell us
Good
why
evening.
you want to do it? I don't.
Yeah, so I'm Logan Haig. I'm a community member. My family's here. I'm a psychologist, and actually it was because of the road hump that was maybe going to go in on Huntington Road, and I was waiting for our item to come up. I was just looking at board vacancies and saw that this was one, and remembered that we always give them a few $1,000 a year, and it's a really important group for our community, and thought that'd be a cool way to serve and be helpful and make sure that we're represented when our turn comes to have a seat at the table.
Great.
Yeah.
Anyone have any questions for Logan? Were you here? Would you be appointed if we didn't propose that speed hump?
I defer to.
We propose more of them around town.
It's more speed bumps to get more community engagement. Yes, we'll do it.
There we go.
Good question.
The wrong takeaway, but
Yes.
easy conclusion to come to. If no one has any questions, we could.
Adam, this is David. I move to appoint Logan Haig to the,
Uzi.
as the Richmond representative to the Chittenden Unit for Special Investigation, filling a term that expires at the end of May 2026.
This Bart, I'll second that.
Motion in a second. Any discussion? Calling it to a vote.
David, I.
Bart, aye.
Caitlin and I.
Adam, aye. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Logan.
Thank you very much.
We'll see you in May.
Yes.
Or sooner, if we talk about speed bumps.
Next, we have a consideration of approving a contract for fireworks display on January 4th. Have a list of somebody if you're talking about
Don't know. Is there anybody from Print Fireworks Committee? Maybe one person might show up.
that. Jay was generally the representative.
He had been, well. I see, Sue, you're on the line. Did you want to speak to fireworks or do you want me to do it? All right. I'll jump in. All right. So last year, it was $15,000 for a fireworks display on July 4th. This year, the price has increased to $22,000 for the same size display. They were citing a couple of things. The company that we worked through got purchased by a larger national company, so that might have helped to increase the price. They've cited increased tariffs, increasing their costs, and the 250th anniversary of July 4th, 1776 has increased demand for fireworks. I asked if we could get a smaller show for $15,000 and still keep the budget the same. Basically, $22,000 is their minimum. So in order to reserve a spot, we need to send them back a contract. I did look, they put the first payment after town meeting day, so we don't have to pay until March 10th. And if budget changes, we can back out. I think it's a 10% fee if we cancel more than 30 days out. So if for some reason budgets change, we don't want to do it, we're out $2,200, not the full $22,000.
David?
I don't want to be the guy that kills fireworks, but I do have to ask the question, at what point does this become more of a luxury than something that the board wants to do every year? I think it's probably short notice to say no fireworks next year, but I think we need to have that conversation.
Or
I was going to say two things. First, it's very clear to me that there are very many vocal proponents of the fireworks display. A lot of people show up from this town and some other towns, but it is not absolutely universal. There are people for whom the sounds are sort of triggering. So just note that. I'll also remind everybody that we had some conversations in the past about replacing fireworks with drone shows. And the price point of drone shows has not yet approached a feasible price point as an alternative to this. That they're still quite expensive, but not as loud.
Just to add to what Bart said, the drone prices are coming down drastically. They're still much, much higher than fireworks, but they are coming down. So I think that's something to keep an eye on.
Oh. Gene Haskin?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, I mean, we got a price from one company. Are there other companies you can get prices from or packages from?
I don't know that the committee looked out to any other companies, and I'm not really sure what other companies exist out there for this. You're shaking your head no.
I don't think there are, no, I did when I was looking at stoves.
Same company we use at Fulton Valley as well. I think your options are somewhat limited, unfortunately.
But worth the question, I'm
No,
just
it
going
is.
from,
Yeah.
my mind. Yeah, this is, I mean, that's a good chunk of money.
Yeah, it is.
And as much as I love the fireworks, I would be really curious to hear what the town has to say. And what's the deadline that we need to approve?
Aaron, go ahead.
We
Hey,
could.
just quickly, the tariffs change frequently, and is 22,000 a firm number, or might it go higher?
So there is a clause in the contract that, where does it say it, that if prices go higher for them, they have a right to come back and renegotiate. I mean, I guess at that point we could say, no, we're canceling and get $2,200. But they do have a clause there where they could come back if tariffs continue to rise or other taxes on them. It looks like we need, let me see.
So Josh, while you're looking that up, my memory is that last year was a significant increase over the year before. So we're in sticker shock with this increase, but this is in addition to last year's increase.
Yeah, and their letter says the signed contract is due by December 12th, 2025, with a deposit by March 10th. So we could put it on the December 1st agenda. There would still be some time if we wanted to get more feedback.
So a couple of people have already said this, and while it wouldn't be binding, I think it would be plausible and perhaps useful to have a non-binding vote on the March ballot to say,
Yeah,
to get a sense of the voters and taxpayers.
yeah.
Yeah.
Is this something they support or not?
What was the deposit date?
Way before March,
Way before, have a vote before March.
isn't it? No, no,
What was the
we're not gonna have a
date for-
vote before
what was the date
March,
for
but
deposit.
So the deposit date is March 10th, 2026. So by my reading of the contract, if we send it back on December 12th or before December 12th, it locks us in. And
Locks us in without a deposit?
it seems to lock us in without a deposit. They said the 50% deposit's due by March 10th. And then in the cancellation clauses, it says if a customer cancels his agreement for any reason, in the event the display is canceled more than 30 days before the display, customer agrees to pay 10% of the contract amount. So,
We would still pay. We're signing and we would still pay even though we don't put the deposit on.
right, you would still pay the $2,200 of that contract amount.
Yeah.
That's a weird, that's a weird setup.
It did, yeah, well, that's the setup.
They don't want anything anymore.
I think that they gave us, I think the March 10th date is there knowing that town meeting day, you know, and but this is in the next fiscal year. So they want to allow for, well, if something does happen, you
Yeah.
don't owe your deposit till then, but they do still want 10% of the show because they're reserving the space and their folks for that night. So I think if we put it on as something to discuss at town meeting, it would, I mean, unless you took it out of the budget, it would still be in the budget at 22,000.
Mhm.
That money would then go to unassigned funds, or you could use it for something else if it failed.
Yeah, I think that we should do that. I think we should sign it, and so we have the option, because if I didn't have it right now, I'd say we should continue for this year and then, you know, get more information. But I think we should sign it at the risk of losing the 2,200 and then bring it as an agenda item for town meeting day. I'd really like to hear from the public what we want to do moving forward. For other creative
Mary?
ideas.
I just wanted to affirm that putting it on the ballot is not a bad idea. We'll hear from everybody. And then how much money do we make from the 4th of July coin drop?
I think it
Never
was like
heard that number.
5,000-ish.
Okay, so that could be the 2,200 that, and I wouldn't expect that we would let it go. I think that confirming it by December 12th and giving them their half down on March 10th, I think is appropriate for this year. And then have it as a ballot item. And it doesn't have to be non-binding, because if it's binding, you know, you're gonna do what the majority of the folks say anyway.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Well, that's, and actually, I think, thinking on my feet here, I think if it was non-binding, it would have to be from the floor. If it's binding, we might be able to add it as a budget item, which would be Australian ballot.
Mhm.
But I would want to check on that to make sure that that's
Sure.
correct, but we have other items for the budget that are added on
Which,
by vote. or
how do we get ahead of
appropriations.
this by a year so we're not playing the shuffle every year?
Well, that's the hard part with the timing of July 4th and the fiscal
Don't
year.
push the mower.
So I don't know that there's much you can do to get ahead of it year to year. It's a challenging
Yeah.
timing with it being so close to the start of the fiscal year. And then you have to commit so early.
I also wonder, and so as we're thinking about this and people are starting to consider, you know, do I want the fireworks or not? You know, are there other creative things that we could do that are less traditional? Maybe not the drone show, but like other things that we make as a town that become a new tradition that we could do to replace this with, you know, a budget that's associated. Just to, you know, we have, 4th of July is a big event here. We do have a lot of people in town. How can we make it something that is for our town?
Chris?
Chris Granda. I mean, I love a good fireworks display, but that kind of price increases seems really steep to me. I guess another option would be to set the budget at like 15,000 and kick it back to the fireworks committee and say, this is what the budget is. If you can find somebody else who can do for cheaper, great. Otherwise, as Caitlin suggests, maybe come up with a new idea
Or additional funding?
or additional funding. Yeah.
Great. We have a path forward. Anything else?
So what's our path forward? We talked about a few options. that
Oh, I think we're gonna commit
we're gonna commit to it,
in
put it on
writing.
the ballot.
Then we're gonna put it on the ballot.
Okay.
Yep.
Good.
Do we
For
want
this
to
year
do
and
it
then-
tonight, or do we want to wait another meeting?
You
Is
guys,
there a reason to wait? I
We
guess
have time.
Oh.
No?
there's no reason to wait, but we don't have to commit until after our first summer meeting either.
That's what I meant.
So we could do it at next meeting. We could just we could just kick the can down the road.
Why?
We've assigned by December
well,
12th.
12th.
And our next meeting would be December.
Will we know something different then that we don't know now?
I don't see how we would.
Even if we get people to come in and speak at, like, that's great, and I still want, I mean, this is a townwide decision, I'd love to have it part
Yeah,
of town meeting day, so I think that we sign today and then we line up the right conversation.
I agree.
I can agree to that.
So we should probably have a motion.
This is Bart. I move to approve the agreement with Pyrotechnical for fireworks on July 4th, 2026 in the amount of $22,000.
This is Caitlin, I'll second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Calling to a vote.
David, I.
Bart, aye.
Caitlin, I.
Adam, I.
Thank you.
Consideration of approving a special projects reserve fund for pickleball expenses. So I know we had talked about, we have pickleball courts. They're great now. They will need ongoing maintenance and we need a plan to fund that maintenance.
so this isn't that item. You are right.
Not that. It's
No.
not that item?
No, we're on that item, but that's not what this item's about. So this is considering use of special projects reserve fund, which is the
Use.
money.
Gotcha.
We
This is
have-
construction costs.
No, so let me pull it up.
Okay, walk us through this, Josh. I will stop talking.
Okay,
Good to
so.
be chair.
In all fairness, I got the run through this week, so I.
Yeah, it is.
Clearly didn't have.
Not that that would have saved me. but-
So the Friends of Richmond Pickleball came to me with about $1,100 worth of expenses. So some replacement trees, assuming we'll probably lose a couple trees in the spring over the winter. Some additional signage for the courts, mats for the south gate, benches inside of the courts, a replacement center strap to have on hand for the net, a battery powered leaf blower, some extra batteries for that leaf blower to clear the courts, and some additional costs, including temporary signage. So they want about $1,100 worth of things. They priced this out. So suggesting that we could use a special project reserve fund, which has been set aside for projects in the park, and that's what we're paying essentially for the pickleball courts with is we're gonna up money. So my question to the board was, do you want to pull that out of this fund? If you don't, we can take it out of a recreation budget, but I think we're already probably a little over that already this year, just we've had a few additional miscellaneous costs with pickleball that we put there.
Just a question about details. So where, can we specify where this stuff will be kept or stored?
Yeah, I think it'll either be kept here at the town center over the winter, and there is a wooden shed over at Brown's Court that primarily is used for softball. And
Yeah.
I know they already wanted to store a couple things in there. I told them that there's plenty of space in there for a few pickleball items. So that would have access by town staff, pickleball volunteers, and Little League volunteers. And I think as long as they clearly label what's theirs and tell softball, don't take this rake to that field, it's only for this. I think we can keep the items separate, but stored together. Separate usage, but stored together.
Were they just for, sorry,
Of course, yeah.
would they just be for the use of pickleball committee, or is it your friends of Richmond Pickleball, or are these things that other folks in town that are doing town stuff would use?
The intent was it would be just for pickleball. I mean, really, most of this stuff is pretty pickleball specific. I think the one thing that could be used for something else would maybe be the leaf blower. If there was a need for something else. I imagine if somebody wanted to use the leaf blower, we could probably allow that depending on what the use was.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know what that is right now, because I'm sure Pete and Steve have everything they need for leaf blowing. But you never know. Maybe there's a trail that needs some leaves blown off of it or something like that.
Where are the base paths?
Go to the base as well. That's Little League. I don't think I'd bother the leaf blower for that. That's my other hat.
One concern is a lot of these things seem like they're ongoing maintenance items. And so what's our plan to replace
So-
this stuff annually?
Yeah, true. I think
whatever.
we would need to replace them annually, either or however long they're gonna be. Either out of the special project reserve fund or add them into the budget. And there was a second part of this I was gonna add to the budget meeting. I think it's about a $7,000 cost every, I forget how many years, 6 or 7 years to resurface the courts. And I think it might be more than 7. I think that was the initial cost, but we're gonna add that into the next round of the budget to look at how do we want to start to save for that future cost.
It's every 7 years, Josh.
Oh, thank you, Jane. Every 7, and did I get the $7,000 right, or did that cost go up when we spoke?
It went up to 12,000 based on the most up-to-date numbers we found.
So 12,000 every 7 years, probably increasing to resurface the courts, increasing based on, it's not gonna be the same price in 7 years that it would be now.
Not gonna go down either.
It never does.
No, but that was an estimate that he thought was realistic.
For 7 years out, okay, so
Yes.
maybe this time it'll be 12.
What would you like to do?
This is Bart. I move to approve the use of up to $1,300 from the Special Projects Reserve Fund to purchase the described items for the pickleball courts. And the second part of the motion is where they come from.
Well, sorry, the second part of the motion is, so the first one is from Special Project Reserve Fund. The select board had set aside, it was like, I didn't write it down. It's like $400,000, I think, that was set aside for park projects. And part of that was taken up by the initial cost of the pickleball courts, but even that got split because there was an initial cost of like 114 that was approved. The actual bid was like 144, so the additional 30 came from ARPA funds, but not from the money set aside for improvements to the park. So the question is, do you want this up to $1,300 to come out of what was allocated to the park? Or there's still $368,000 uncommitted that you could say, okay, let's take it out of the uncommitted and leave the other ones for the larger items like playgrounds and band shells.
My preference would be to take it out of already committed money.
So I will continue my motion to say these funds are to come from the amount committed to Volunteers Green and Browns Court.
Just Caitlin, I'll second that.
Motion and a second, any discussion? I'm a little hesitant to vote for this, knowing that there's not an ongoing plan.
Yeah,
So I think if the committee is watching, and they want to come to us with a plan of what this looks like in 1, 5, 10, 20 years. I think that's where we need to be to keep throwing money at the pickleball thing.
I will only add, as a longtime observer of our athletic fields and equipment, this has at times in the past been an oversight as well. There have been various times in history where the condition of our, like, backstops was demonstrably inadequate. So I share that to say that I think it has been perhaps a long-term failing of the town to sometimes ignore the ongoing maintenance and operations expenses. So we might contemplate that, not just about pickleball courts, but about other elements. What do we really anticipate?
I would also really like to see, as we purchase equipment like the leaf blower, how we can utilize that for other parks and such, and have a park.
Sorry, Mary, we were.
It's okay, but as soon as you're done, I have a question.
Good.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry.
Just a reminder that we have until sometime in 2026 to use this money or we lose this money. That was, the ARPA committee, we were put on the shelf because we were no longer needed, kind of like the town center committee. And I mean that just the way it sounds. I think that the ARPA committee would have been effective if it continued, but whatever Bart said about making sure that things are taken care of, I think maintenance was not allowed. anything that required ongoing maintenance was not allowed to be taken out of the ARPA fund. But whatever the plan is to get it taken care of, get it on the table, get it taken care of, because those ARPA funds are gonna be clawed back. Thank you.
Your question in there?
No, it's pretty much a statement.
So,
But it's
I think, so how we transferred the, yeah, our ARPA money is no longer ARPA money. We use the ARPA money to cover expenses.
Mhm.
To do with COVID, which created a surplus, which we put in this reserve fund. So the money is still there, but how we labeled it and did it all, it's not gonna get clawed back.
and what,
We used we
Has to be
used the ARPA
committed.
money, and then we created a surplus, which we then funded
Yeah.
the special project reserve fund.
That there would be a clawback? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
We-
that
Yeah.
was where the board transferred money into the general fund, and then we held that special meeting in November of last year
Yeah.
to create the special project reserve fund, transfer a portion of that money into that, and then we left some of the money in the general fund, which went to pay for things we're already under contract, like the pickleball courts and a few other items.
We
So-
did that specifically to avoid the clawback.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank
But we
you.
checked to make sure committing it counted as spending it and.
Right.
Dotting my i's, crossing my t's.
No, I appreciate
But
that.
they-
Good question.
Yeah.
They would-
It was
yes.
a long road,
Yeah.
Yeah.
many twists and turns to
Yeah.
get to where we're
Thank
at.
you.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
David, I.
Bart,
All do that.
Caitlin,
Adam, I. Next, we have a consideration for approving a request from Richmond Mountain Trails to utilize funds from the Conservation Reserve Fund to purchase a brush hog and a weed whacker. Do we have anyone? Sam is here with us. And
I saw his feet
whoever would like to,
sitting right next to this person over here. You might use those are his boots, I think.
I think I'm muting that person. I thought they were trying to participate, but they're finding some boots. Okay.
Max, go ahead.
I'd like to recognize. Hi there. I'm Max Krieger. I'm the secretary of the Richmond Mountain Trails, former Conservation Commission member. Yeah, I'm hoping the board has read the proposal, and apologies for not being at the last meeting. I think Judy and I got some wires crossed about timing. So thank you very much for your time. I'm happy to go over the proposal if that's helpful, or if you'd like to just ask questions or anything I can help fill in, happy to do that.
I think the big concern that came up with varying levels and different board members and the public was just kind of the idea of buying equipment and provide, like, having it stored on private property and being used in other towns and stuff. There was varying degrees of concern there, but I'd love to hear about how you expect to manage that and kind of ensure that it's, you know, benefiting people in Richmond and all that stuff.
I'd only add, if you didn't watch the last conversation, there has been a history on some other budget requests, some about like soccer expenses.
Mhm.
And the citizens were pretty vocal about, don't use the town of Richmond funds to help the Jericho fields for their soccer.
Mm.
And that may seem narrow-minded, but it was absolutely a very, of the people in the room, virtually everybody had that opinion. So having gone through that experience, I'm informed by the same thing. So how do we take the same approach here, which would, and I appreciate from my understanding of Richmond Mountain Trails, it is not just the town of Richmond. You're working in other towns like Bolton, like the golf course and other places. So you're just seeing your sign and seeing your annual report refer to them. I assume that's what that means.
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to provide more context to that. So Richmond Mountain Trails is focused on trails in Richmond. We do also maintain one trail system in Bolton, which is called the driving range. But the vast majority of our work is in the town of Richmond. The need that we noticed was members of the public were donating their time and personal equipment to maintain Richmond's trails, using their weed whackers and brush hogs and whatever other motorized equipment and hand tools to maintain trails like the River Trail and the Preston Legacy Forest, to maintain trails on private land that are utilized by all sorts of, you know, walkers, hikers, bikers, skiers. And that comes with a cost. It is a donated thing that, and that's what our organization does, is try to use volunteers to both fundraise and to do work. But those hard costs, especially large expenses like a brush hog or like a professional grade weed whacker, are large purchases for an individual volunteer to make and then let a chapter use. So we discussed with the Richmond Trails Committee members and with the Conservation Commission, and we heard both that there likely may not be room or desire to host tools in town of Richmond's facilities. But Richmond Mountain Trails does have a shed that is big enough that's currently on the Maple Inn property right across from Andrews Forest that has room for those materials. So we said we would love to host that on the condition that it is made available to folks in town on town committees. On top of that, we would pay, Richmond Mountain Trails would agree to pay for the maintenance of those tools and keep them in good operating order for 10 years. We would agree to provide training to operators because they are heavy equipment. So we make sure that there's proper protective equipment, PPE. We'd make sure that, you know, the first time somebody goes out with one of those things, they would be trained by a volunteer who knows, you know, how to operate them. That those volunteers would either sign a waiver or they were already a member of Richmond Mountain Trails. And what that does is provide some liability protection from the Vermont Mountain Bike Association on top of whatever liability the town protection the town may have already. So we said, well, that seems like a good public-private partnership. You know, we can provide value to the town of Richmond and the town's committees. Hopefully it's still.
Yeah, Zoom is still going.
Okay.
Projector.
And then, you know,
Okay.
we can make sure to keep the trails in good operating order. The Conservation Commission went over their concerns as well, and they did raise those, that they were concerned that it would be used in other towns. Again, the only network that we have in another town is the driving range. We would love to use them there because there are some weed whacking and brush hogging needs there, but the tools would live in Richmond. They would only be available for use by RMT or by town committees, or if there was like an individual who was working on behalf of town committee and wanted to use those tools, that'd be great. We would use our volunteer time to help coordinate that. We would make, we have a staff email that we could use to do that coordination. And we're well experienced in organizing trail days and that sort of thing. So that admin time, the maintenance costs, the shed hosting costs, we're happy to host. It's that initial purchase amount that we're asking the town to pitch in. And I guess I didn't quite realize it seems like a bit of a novel request, but I did read through the Conservation Reserve Fund's requirements, and I didn't see the reserve fund ask is based on that it's in support of recreation, and that the RCC was also interested in potentially using the materials, the tools for invasive species management. But I didn't see anything that prohibits the purchasing of equipment for this type of act. And I mean, Josh probably knows more if it's been done otherwise this degree, but it would be, you know,
That's the Conservation Commission would know more about.
Yeah.
Like it has to fit those parameters or a
Yeah.
certain number of them, and I don't claim to have those memorized.
Oh, no, I was saying more if it had been done where there was an equipment purchase for like made available to public in that vein. But it does seem like with, I guess with pickleball, you're purchasing equipment, you're making available to that committee.
Sort of the first one that I've really.
Yeah, that's, I think, the first example, but it's timely.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions. We are thankful for the opportunity and really, you know, anything we can do to help continue to keep the trails in good functioning order is kind of our mission.
Great, thanks. Sam, do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, I thought I would speak to a couple of the things that we talked about when we approved this, and we thought that it was a pretty good opportunity to use this as an example of how to do more responsible trail management in Richmond. So we did have some concerns about, well, you know, where's the equipment going to be used, and rather than try to nail those all down into very specific limitations, we didn't rewrite the app, but we did sort of have like a, you know, a handshake agreement on RMT working with the commission to establish things like a mowing timetable, just to protect things like insects and nesting birds during specific, you know, seasons, and also to help train people on best management practices for cleaning equipment. For example, if this is equipment that's going to get used around Richmond, then there's you know, a pretty strong possibility that somebody's going to use the brush hogger or a weed whacker on one trail that may have an invasive species or, you know, non-native plant that gets carried to another trail, and that could just sort of be you know, a vector for just, you know, continuing to spread non-native species throughout Richmond. So yeah, I mean, this is a bit of an interesting application, but we thought that it provided some interesting opportunities for collaboration, and RCT was interested in coming up with a few things like a mowing timetable and best practices for, you know, like cleaning equipment and whatnot. So I'm not sure if that changes the way that this is viewed at all, but I figured I'd at least mention that those were some of the things that RCC thought the town could benefit from. And I don't know if it would make more sense for the town to own it or for RMT to do it. I can't really speak to that and from like I guess a legal perspective, or whether or not that's something that's preferred or not from the Conservation Reserve Fund perspective.
Awesome. Thanks, Sam.
Yep.
Thank you. This gentleman's on the Trails Committee, Sam? Or the Conservation?
Sam, you're in the Conservation Committee, right?
Yes, I am the chair as of last week of the Conservation Commission.
Miss you, Judy.
Congratulations.
I got a
Thank
couple-
you.
Don't mind, please, Mary Holt. What is the number of miles of trails in Richmond? That's number one. And number two, how much land is owned by the town of Richmond that is in this trail system? And number three, ironclad liability.
Are these questions for me or for the select board?
Anybody that wants to answer them?
No, I'm just gonna say, I have a very strong opinion about this. Since the Conservation Commission is not getting the money, we're talking to the organization that would get the money and presumably buy and own the equipment. So I'm really thoughtful. If you're not a member of Richmond Mountain Trails, I don't think we should be answering questions on their behalf.
No,
This gentleman
thank
is,
you.
correct?
Yes.
Okay, so what is the number of miles of trails?
In Richmond,
Correct.
total?
Well,
I don't know. Significant.
and then is any of the land owned by the town of Richmond that is in this trail system?
Yes.
And that would be just the town forest?
Believe there are portions of the Richmond River Trail,
Nope.
the Andrewstown Forest, if they so choose to use it, and then the Conservation Reserve Fund also approves use for work on conserved land. So the Richmond Trails Committee has agreements with landowners for the Preston Legacy Forest, for landowners on the River Trail, the Safford Preserve, and I think a few other trail networks, and we partner with them to work on their trails. Richmond Mountain Trails also helps other landowners in Richmond, like the Whitmans who own Chamberlain Hill, the Sunshines who own Mississippi Sunshine Land, the Vermont Youth Conservation Corps, Maple Wind Farm, and a few other landowners.
Well, that's outside my question because unless there's part of Overrocker, that I can't think of anything else that the town would own. And everything that you cited is private land. I understand agreements. I get that. But just, you know, for the fact of ownership as a Richmond resident and taxpayer, I wanted to know, you know, and if it's kind of strange that somebody on the Trails Committee wouldn't understand, or excuse me, wouldn't have the number of miles or distance that the trail covered.
Thank you, Mary. Anyone else have anything else to add?
I want to ask a little bit about the liability piece. So, it sounds like from the way that you said it, that we would be, that we're essentially giving money towards this committee and they're going to utilize that money to purchase this equipment, which they will make available to town, but the town's not owning them. So we're not owning the liability. Is that?
I would think so, because the town will not own the equipment.
Right.
If a town volunteer used the equipment on a town trail, they got hurt, there might be liability there.
That'd be no different than a town volunteer using private equipment on a trail either.
Right.
Non-town owned equipment on a town trail.
That's
I think that's part of the point, that the town's not gonna own these. And what I've seen in some agreements is this very much hold harmless clause. You get the money, you buy the stuff, you own the liability. Anything happens, it's no longer town funds. They turned into, so when we do this, Richmond Mountain Trails funds.
I think that was part of also the discussion with RCC and our TC members, was that VIMBA, the Vermont Mountain Bike Association, carries liability insurance, and that based also with the Vermont Landowner Liability Act gives a good shield to both municipalities and private landowners, that if a volunteer is hurt and the maintenance or work on those trails, VIMBA's insurance will come in, provide defense, and then the Landowner Liability Act is, well, ironclad, to quote someone in the room, that if you're doing volunteer work on somebody's land and you get hurt, you can't sue that owner for damages. But
So this is tricky because I think as a town, we would like to own the stuff, but owning it would open us up to significant liability. So there's kind of a conundrum here.
And we're certainly
Yeah,
we're open to either arrangement, and we're happy to host or to have it on town land. We're just recognizing the need for the equipment.
pardon. Dad.
So I think two questions, but one, I'm still not clear. So would it be your intent to use this on all the trails, like the driving range, like Bolton, like wherever you work? Is that
the preference would be to have, to be able to do that. Again, our main focus is Richmond, but we have one other system.
Okay, so I'm just going to state my position. Having been informed by similar situations in the past, if this were a partnership, I think of like the Lake Iroquois Recreational Association. There have been some other examples where it was shared across town. So it's just my perspective that based on that precedent and what this body has done in the past is that if this intended to be shared, that we'd look for a share from Bolton, the other towns that also benefit from it. And I'll just say there are at least 5 or 6 examples of a similar pattern in previous awards. Another thing I'll say, how this might have fit, although the ship has sailed for this year, would have been as a nonprofit request on the ballot to the voters of the town as a whole. They want to give, and that sort of gets by all that. It's not this board deciding it, it's the voters deciding. Do you want to give $5,000 to Richmond Mountain Trails to buy equipment for trails maintenance? And I bring that up because it would sidestep the issue that I see.
I guess knowing, I agree in principle, but knowing the reality, I don't think we're going to get any money at Bolton anytime soon, knowing that the financial constraints they have. And I'm really remiss, while I share all your concerns, that this is still a smoking deal to get serious maintenance done on trails that many more people in town use than use pickleball, to be frank. Like significant orders of magnitude more people in town that I know use that. Not a single person I know is excited about pickleball. There's like 40 people I know are effing pumped to have all these trails open.
It's 2 different crowds.
Very different crowds, but so the amount of effort that will be required long-term to maintain these trails is huge. So putting in the effort alone is a huge commitment and organization. Not that pickleball hasn't required commitment in organization, but it's a fundamentally different level of commitment and organization. And so I'm really remiss to give them a battery powered leaf blower when they can sweep it and then say, no, you can't have a DR mower and you can't have a leaf blower because Bolton's not going to pitch in for their $1,000 too. And like everyone I know in Richmond, you know who uses all the trails in Richmond? Not people who live in Bolton. The trails in Bolton. It's not people who live in Bolton. It's people in Richmond and driving through Richmond and then driving back through Richmond. So like I want to figure out how we can sort all these concerns out, because I think this is a huge benefit to the town for a pretty small price. Where the money comes from, how it comes. I mean, if we just gave pickleball another $1,300, we have a ton of money left in that. Like, why can't we use it from, this is a perfect example of a capital cost that then leverages private volunteerism and money to make a pretty serious improvement to infrastructure in town and a neighboring town that honestly, there's a lot of stuff we could do in Bolton to help them out. If giving Bolton $1,000 worth of maintenance out of the 5,000.
So we can use their trail.
So we can use their trails, and honestly, if we can help Bolton grow and be better, Bolton's in a really hard spot right now. I would be really remiss to bug them for even $50, so.
So are we.
It's true, but I think that, having.
Having
agree,
sat through budget meetings here. How much we waiting to get hopefully from FEMA?
True.
I mean,
I guess
it's slightly different, somewhat different in scale.
$144,000 in pickleball for a much smaller subset of people.
Fair enough.
$5,000. So I'm just really trying to wrap my head around that, like why because it's only going to serve Richmond. So do we have a sign that says Richmond only on pickleball? No, we do not. So let's put that up then. Do we do that in our trails? Like, no, that's not what we want to have an open system. We want an open community where we can all benefit and raise everyone up. And this is doing that. And so I don't know. I see this as the tide raising all boats, but we're concerned that our tide might raise someone else's by accident a little bit. To be fair, I don't even have a mountain bike. My mountain bikes have engines on them, so I'm not using these short term. I don't think you're going to open it up to me. I'm not that kind of.
Not at the moment. No motorized trails.
It's a good decision.
But,
It's a rough
if you
draft.
hike or walk or take your dog out, same trails. Don't mountain
bike. I was looking at some of the public land versus or town land and so forth. It looks like Preston Legacy Forest and River Trail are part of the Richmond Town Trails and part owned publicly and then owned part by the Richmond Mountain Trails. And then there's all sorts of cooperations that you all have with landowners, multiple agencies and partners and so forth that help Richmond get land use. I think the only issue that I have with this at this point is just the liability piece and like who owns it. Like I'm concerned about the details, not the equipment. I think that I really like that the Conservation Committee is saying that part of this is not spreading and using equipment in places and having those things spread. I think that's important. And it's actually like a really good conservation step and purposeful. And I also like the idea of having equipment that is managed responsibly in terms of safety and in terms of training and provides that opportunity for people of Richmond, the appropriate people of Richmond to have access to. So I'm really just concerned about the details of how do we do this the right way with the right, agreements in place.
Can I get Sarah she's been waiting for a long time to speak. Sorry to cut you off, but she's been pointedly staring at me. Go ahead, Sarah. It's a very effective stare. Good job.
So I just wanted to point out too, and I don't know if there's an equivalent here in Richmond, but the Bolton trails that we help maintain are also adaptive trails, like very unique adaptive trails that also.
Didn't know that.
I don't think there's an equivalent of that in Richmond. Correct me if I'm wrong.
That's a great point.
But I think that also is something that like people have to go outside of Richmond to access. They have it one ton over in Bolton. And so it's a really valuable resource to have close to home, and I'm glad that you guys are doing so much work to maintain that, because I think it's really important to make these trails accessible to everyone who wants to use them. And so I think that just also kind of
how do you do that?
Right. So just further supports anyone Adam was saying, like these trails are for everyone, and people in Richmond are using the Bolton trails, and people outside of Richmond are coming to Richmond to use the Richmond trails. And so I, as a Richmond taxpayer, would love to help support the Bolton trails as well, especially given their mission and the fact that they're making this accessible for more folks.
Thanks.
Go ahead, Barb. Sorry they had to make you stew on it for a minute.
No, it's okay. So two other thoughts come to mind. If we're talking about the details and what sort of protections we want in place, it strikes me that we could, as part of doing this, engage in a contract or grant agreement that says these are all the things that you agree to do. And in that, embed a bunch of things that hold the town harmless from any stupid things you do with it. Which, just to be fair, I don't know if you know this, many people go to emergency departments having run themselves or a family member over with a lawnmower.
Done it.
We're very safety conscious.
I'm just saying, it's not impossible to do the stupid.
You're looking for volunteer board members, but you will not be taking select board volunteer.
Yeah, maybe
board
not.
members. Yeah.
So that's, I think that to that question of the details, I think it's possible to put forth an agreement that
Mitigate some of that.
clarifies some of it or holds the town harmless. And it doesn't prevent a bad accident, it just puts that accident at harm.
Could also
arm's
outline
length.
what we expect, kind of what the expectations are around it, and which would be valuable.
If I may provide other examples as well. So towns like Williston, Jericho, Essex, maybe Huntington, all have agreements with other VIMBA chapters that outline a lot of this. So they say, you know, it's akin to what we have with other landowners in town, a landowner agreement. It says, you know, we agree to let you have access to these trails. And then once they're VIMBA trails, VIMBA's liability applies. Theoretically, any trail that's listed on the Vermont Trails and Greenways Council, which I believe is all the Richmond trails anyway, covered. But that agreement could likely give the town the say that it would like, and it would also solidify RMT's relationship with the town as an entity that would like to assist and alongside the RTC and the RCC be a resource available for maintenance. So we'd be happy to come, that's a whole other conversation, but we'd be happy to talk to Josh or whoever would be the appropriate party and start that conversation, but.
What are your guys' thoughts? I feel like we have two things we could do. I think that having an agreement in place like that would be valuable, especially if surrounding towns are doing it. That seems like we're behind a little bit and we should catch up. And then also on our end, maybe if we are going to view this as like an investment in recreation in town and stuff, maybe the Conservation Reserve Fund is not necessarily the best source of funds. So on our end, as a select board, we can contemplate how and from where we would like to spend this money. And if we want to make that happen, to make it, we do have options. We could spend it of ARPA money. We could continue to do it out of the Conservation Reserve Fund.
The money formerly known as ARPA.
The money the surplus of money that was created by using ARPA to offset our costs.
I would say the Conservation Reserve Fund does specifically call it recreation as one of the uses. So and the RCC did support it. So highlighting that we believe strongly it's a good use of the.
And then we can also mull over kind of our comfort level with having, you know, obviously the majority of your trails are in Richmond, but our comfort level with it going outside of Richmond and all that. Or maybe how we could wrangle maybe some other small funding or some funding source to kind of make it a true collaboration between towns or the town and an entity or something like that.
Yeah.
What
John Deere.
I imagine with the time of year, you don't need this right now, or do you need it to do fall maintenance?
We're hoping the reason we're asking at this time of year is actually because now is when the equipment is most affordable.
Yeah.
So all of the like Black Friday sales are occurring and the equipment that we listed is all at least $1,000 off of its regular listing price. So that part, that's the time of the essence, but otherwise it like
$1,000 on fireworks and police cars is not a big deal, but $1,000 in brush hogs is
significant.
Yeah.
But they don't want to store it over the winter.
Can I try to craft something here? So this is Bard, move to approve the request from Richmond Mountain Trails to utilize up to $5,000 from the Conservation Reserve Fund to purchase a brush mower, weed whacker, and necessary parts for each for maintenance of trails that are open to the public in Richmond, with the requirement that Richmond Mountain Trails works with the Richmond Conservation Commission to create a timetable and best management practice for trail work such that wildlife movement will be protected and noxious weeds will not be spread. And B, subject to an agreement between the town and Richmond Mountain Trails, specifies the relationship and avoids liability to the town for the use and or maintenance of the equipment.
This is David, I'll second.
And
that is a mouthful. Thank you.
This money must be spent within 3 years of the date of final approval. That was the last part.
Great.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Nope.
Anyone have anything else to add? Sam?
Sorry, I'm not sure if I missed it in the motion, or if it was included. I know that, the, preventing spreading of invasive, plant species was mentioned. Was there also anything in there, specifically, aimed at mowing schedules for, avoiding, wildlife as well? I may have just
Yes.
missed it. Okay,
I've
excellent.
included that to make sure they would have to collaborate with you guys to come up with a schedule. and
Okay,
also
great. Sorry I missed
practice.
that.
Nope, no problem. Brendan,
Hey, this might be a silly question, but once you've purchased the equipment, how does the like use of it, how is that? Is that all volunteer or like the schedules for utilizing it? Does that question make sense?
sounds like Richmond Mountain Trails will coordinate scheduling those days and also the maintenance and training for any volunteers any training they would need before they use the equipment.
Okay, so it's all volunteer.
So that was included in the proposal, and there's probably elements of the proposal that we could put into an agreement between RMT and the town, right?
Yeah.
Great. And I think there's probably agreements with surrounding towns that we could probably lean on, right? So we're not starting from
Certainly.
scratch. Yeah. Great.
And full disclosure, we do have a small part-time paid trail crew that may also use the equipment, but I don't think that should affect, just to clarify.
More just making sure that we wouldn't like buy it and then there wouldn't be volunteers to use it.
No, I think we average something like 5,000 volunteer hours every season or more. That's just in town, so.
Great.
Awesome.
Um,
I'm very supportive, just question.
Awesome. There's no other discussion. Calling it to a vote.
David, I.
Bart, aye.
Caitlin, I.
Adam, aye. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for coming in.
Appreciate the time.
What kind of stuff?
Sam, thank you for your time.
Sawzall.
Yeah, thank
You
you.
can get in
Yep,
touch
no
with me.
problem.
Well,
That was fun.
thanks so much.
Go on YouTube and.
Next, we have an update on the Southwater,
The landing on house.
Southview Stormwater 3-acre permit. And then we have a possible executive session as part of this for, I guess, legal stuff.
Yeah, it's up to you guys. Invited Dave Rue here. He definitely has an update that we should hear about, Greystone. But if you wanted to hear any more from him on Southview, he's available. It's up to the board if you would like to hear from him. Otherwise, I do have filled out the answers to the questions from the Southview residents, and those are included in the packet, so we can go over those if you want. And do you want to formally recuse?
I am recusing myself because I live in Southview. My house is in that.
How would we like to do this?
Well, so there's two different ones, right?
Yeah, so we're on Southview right now.
Yeah. So, and why don't we just start going through the Q&As?
Sounds
The
good.
document, see what questions arise. Have people had a chance to look at that? Maybe?
So, it is 5 pages long. We can go through every question if you want, if there's any specific spots you want to focus on.
I'd say maybe just bring it up and say, what do people want to talk about? And hopefully it's not every bullet. Or maybe it is.
Paige,
Josh, can you clarify the first one? Cost estimates of remaining engineering. So the engineer estimates this at an additional 80,000. That on top of the approximately 40 that's already been spent.
Correct. And I think in that NOI, he looks at getting that to, because he now understands that they need a very detailed, complete NOI. I think prior to the September deadline, there was questions about, does it have to be like 30% or 100%? They're looking for 100% design, finished and done. So that's, and then there'll probably be feedback from the state on potentially things change. There might be additional permits depending on where it is. So that's where he's estimating an additional 50 and then 30 for bid documentation for construction and overseeing construction.
Have we already paid the close to 20K, I think it was, for the permit fee that goes to the state?
We have not, because we haven't submitted the NOI yet.
Okay, so that would have to be submitted or paid with the full NOI, is that correct?
At or about that time, yeah.
You have to pay that and then the state reimburse itself.
I'm not sure how the mechanics on that work, but my understanding is that, yeah, we have the grant for that. you probably do have to pay it and then get reimbursed.
Doesn't make much sense when you put it that way, but
They put the money from the left pocket to the right pocket.
Okay.
You never see interest on it? No.
And I did get your follow-up questions. I haven't had a chance. I've read through them. Some of them I think I could probably answer fairly quickly. Others might take a little bit more research. I just didn't have a chance to really dive into them today. Sorry.
That's fine.
Sarah, did you have something?
I mean, I have some other questions, but we can go through this document first. People have some about well, I have one about a specific question here. I don't know what number it is. We'd asked about whether if it's like the second to last question, I think, just people went to page to it. If the town takes over the permit and receives a grant, how the grant money be apportioned between homeowners' share and the town share? The answer we received was the grant funding could be used to reduce from the total project cost. The cost that's not covered by the grant would then be split between town and private land homeowners. However, the select board would have the option to apply all the grant money to only the town's portion of the cost.
Right.
So we had a neighborhood meeting. People didn't love that answer, unsurprisingly. And so just thinking about, the ask for the special tax district special assessment is people would really like the town to commit to apportioning any grant funding that the town may receive over time between the town and the homeowner's portion of it. So that way it is divided between the two, the same way all the other costs are going to be. So it's whatever, 63% or 64%, 36%, rather than anytime there's a grant, because the town's in a unique position to be able to get grants. And especially if the town's the only party on the grant, you're the only ones who can apply for grants. Like, we can't go out and look for grants ourselves to help offset our portion of costs. And so we would like that to be part of the agreement, essentially, that we are consenting to, is that the town makes a commitment to splitting grants with the homeowners.
So, just a little background on why the question was answered that way, and I think that your follow-up question is perfect one. That the town, I think, legally has the ability, if depending on the grant, to apply it to one portion or the other. The example that was provided to me was, and this isn't a perfect example, but I'll go here as to why we answered it this way. If there is a stormwater utility set up and basically the town is taking care of all of the costs, then at that point, it would be 100% applied to the town, and then any remaining portion is split amongst everybody who's paying for that in town. In that case, you're sort of passing it along anyway, because the town's taking care of all the costs. But we wanted to answer it this way so that the board knew there are options. If for some reason this grant comes along and you're like, no, that should only go to the town side, you could do that. But I do think it's a fair, in this specific case, it's a fair request, but that's up to the board for their decision. I'm passing on the information.
Right, yeah, and I guess all I'm saying is it would make the idea of us consenting to a special assessment a lot more attractive if we knew that the grant funding would be shared with homeowners to potentially reduce our burden as well.
Is there any thinking on the initial the 30 and the 20, that would be divided equally, or that go?
The ARPA funds, you mean?
Yeah, same thing.
I guess I hadn't really contemplated it, and it's really up to you guys. I sort of looked at that as like, that was gonna take away from the entire bill, and then whatever's left over would be split between the town and Greystone. But it's up to you guys how you want to split it.
Southview.
Was that?
Southview.
Sorry, I was asking Southview.
I guess that has just been my assumption on all this, like any money that we have to spend would be split by these proportions, and therefore any money we took to offset it would offset the total cost, and then they would reduce the split proportionally for both. I guess it's just never occurred to me that we wouldn't approach it that way.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it till tonight myself. I had sort of assumed we would establish the ratios or prorated shares and follow those through.
Yeah, I guess I can't see a situation. It just seems fundamentally wrong to establish these shares and then take payment entirely to the town. I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess I would be more than, I think we should make that part of the agreement.
Sure.
Yeah, I think people just want to see that in writing because
Yeah,
obviously like.
understandable.
Select board, people might have.
Yes.
Down the line, so to have that be part of what we're like consenting to in the town's meeting to would be wonderful.
That's very reasonable.
In the same vein, we would like to see, if possible, draft language for whatever's going to be put in front of us to approve for the special assessment. Because if people have comments or want clarity on it, we'd like to be able to come to you all and ask that before we get whatever the final thing is going to be. So just also putting that out there timeline wise if possible.
That seems very reasonable also.
Yeah, it does. Obviously work with our attorney to draft that language, and if that's what the board would like, we can probably have as soon as they're able to get to it, whether that's next meeting or the meeting, it might be the meeting after, just knowing that it's a short week next week, but maybe they have something they can give me in time for the meeting.
I think you're right. It seems to me that we want both the content of the like agreement or what we're trying to do, and then the process. What do we have to do to implement the special assessment? Sort of timeline or steps.
As we David, go ahead.
Yes, just
I think a fair question is where the Southview residents are on this, because before we put any time and effort and spend additional money towards doing this, if they're at, roughly straw poll of 33 or 40% or 60%, or, the one thing also about this grant issue is a neighboring town takes the position that we're the ones eligible for the grants, they're interest free, therefore they should reduce our costs. The homeowners are the ones who are getting a pretty good deal here and getting their title problem solved, with the town taking on the responsibility. So, and they do have the opportunity to apply for other grants. So that's why other municipalities use the grant money to reduce their share.
Gotcha. Thank you.
I mean, I can just say we had a neighborhood meeting recently. Not every single person came, but there was pretty good attendance. There is genuine interest in this as a possible, I don't want to say solution, but way forward.
Path forward.
Path forward, exactly. I think we're all looking at it as like, well, we have all these bad options, and which one can we kind of accept at this point as being the least bad. And so I can't say that there was like an official straw poll. I think people are really waiting to see that draft language. I think there's a lot of concern about, like I said, like people were like, why won't they split grant money with us? So if we can get that commitment, I think that would make people feel better. There's some concern about, well, what's the total number going to be? Because we have the estimates of engineering costs and construction, but the town's going to put a buffer on it, right? Like you need a contingency. That's been discussed already. We don't know what that number is going to be. So it's really hard, I think, even to do a straw poll right now, because honestly, today, I can't tell you without seeing that language of how I'm going to vote. Just to kind of, I think it's worth the effort, right? But I can't, that doesn't mean that I can say with any certainty how it's going to play out.
I'm just looking at like an example, because I think this came up in discussion before. There's an answer here that all properties within the permit coverage area will be part of the district and we will be charged 1/48th of the portion of the cost allocated to private property owners. Is that going to fly with the property owners? Everybody's got an equal share?
I mean, look, everyone's gonna have a different opinion. I think that's probably the easiest, most equitable way to do it, right? Because otherwise, if you get into trying to split hairs over this person has slightly more impervious surface than the next person, then what if there's some disconnection argument though, right? It just gets really complex. And I think 1/48th of 64% is probably just the cleanest way to do it. And if you really like drill down into it, like the differences would be so tiny if you really went by like total impervious surface of each person, that I don't think it's worth having that. Well, it's gonna be a fight, really. Yeah. I mean, you guys can speak to this too. Please don't let me take up all day.
Yeah, I think the conclusion I drew is you'd spend more on engineering fees, figuring out the actual percentages of impervious surface than Any one resident is liable to lose or gain.
I had a question about, say this gets passed. Move forward, we submit the application. And you all know there's some things happening on the state level, and this could all change. So who's in control of the construction schedule? Do we have a say in that? Is the town just gonna take care of that? Like, I'd wanna kind of wait out and see what happens. We wanna be starting with construction this spring, and then all of a sudden this whole thing changes, so. Can we set some sort of expected timeline or something in the language that says, you know, you need approval to move forward with the construction? I don't know, I just don't wanna like lose control of that and construct this thing, and then when the Stormwater Study Utility Commission meeting or whatever recommendations come out and they say, get rid of this whole darn thing. And then we've spent the money, it seems.
Can I reframe that? Is there any scenario in which we'd be putting this out to bid in a time frame that would be next construction season?
No.
Can't imagine.
I'm building a house next spring and I put the site work out to bid in August, and not bid, but like 3 people I use, and 2 of them said, I can't do it next year, I'm already booked.
So that's
So
where I was going. I thought the chances were close to
Pretty
zero
small.
that anything could happen between just the practical elements of that and also between the special assessment district. That's not going to be done.
Maybe even just
3 or
something
4
like estimated timeline, or, you know, we will plan to do construction if needed in 4 years out or something like that.
I think really,
Yeah, I guess it's
Josh,
just gonna, I think, obviously the further out we put it, we have to add more of a buffer in for inflation. But I think it's a reasonable question though, because maybe we don't have to do it in 4 years.
And then I'd like to ask the lawyer why he thinks we're getting a good deal.
Mike?
Yeah, Mike Warner, and I think you just kind of answered the question, but it was really, is there a reason we would do it any sooner than we had to?
That would be my only thought. It'll be cheaper sooner you do it, but with the risk that you don't want to do it and then the next day find out you don't have to do it. Right. That would be,
The gamble, either way.
it's a bit risky either way, you know. So I guess it's dependent, that's probably a conversation I would imagine between the board and the homeowners to find out
Comfort levels and.
what's a reasonable timeline you can agree on.
And what are the risks? We know what the risks are of moving too quickly, spend money you didn't have to spend. What are the risks of moving too slowly beyond having higher project costs?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, we get the licenses issued when we have an approved NOI. We pay the license fee. You get reimbursed hopefully from that. But then we have 4 or 5 years to implement the construction, and we should backload that as responsible for all the things you talked about. I mean, we might find that if we're engaging contractors and we give them flexibility to do the work when they have a window over a multi-year period on the back end of this time frame, we might get it more affordable. bid.
Or at least the same price
Fair
further
point.
away, which would be advantageous also. Good point. Sarah?
Just again, going to sort of the drafting of all this, so another thing that came up. The meeting we had was folks we're kind of discussing how there would be a cap on the total spending that, you know, like basically like a cap on what the town could come and ask us to help contribute towards it, so it would be whatever we consent to, so let's say hypothetically, it's like, you know, $500,000, right? But then people said, well, over what time period could we be potentially billed for this? And is there any way to also put some type of limit on that? Like, you know, this is good for the next, I don't know, 15 years hypothetically, or whatever, especially if they're making like real estate disclosures or things like that. If they want to sell their house, it'd be helpful to kind of be able to disclose that. And it's not just sort of in perpetuity till we spend on the 500K. Another question that was raised was around the maintenance. So the maintenance costs, I believe, were estimated at $2,000 a year. I imagine those could fluctuate year over year. And so how are we going to be billed for those essentially, right? And could the amount that we owe 1 year kind of skyrocket still within that like total amount that we've agreed to? Because one of the chambers had to be replaced, or I don't know, I'm just putting out hypotheticals. People are really concerned about, would it be something that we could like plan for? Because we know every year it's X amount, or are we gonna have to potentially deal with 1 year suddenly this amount jumps sky high and we're on the hook for that?
Right, so that, those are all costs that the town will have to estimate before we put it into the special assessment. And so let's say the special assessment is, the paperwork's estimated at $500,000, to use your example. We wouldn't actually assess that until I think we actually have a bid for construction. And then we would say, okay, engineering fees are actually this, construction's gonna actually be this. Our estimate of maintenance over the next 10, 20 years is this amount. Then let's say that comes up to $450,000. The assessment would then actually be at 450, not 500. And then once that's made, it's my understanding the town can't then come back. So if maintenance.
Once the assessment is set, it's kind of like a bond vote, right? Like you pick it and there's
So
a
if
payment period.
if a chamber needs to be replaced early, and let's say that's $100,000, I think the town would have the right to come back and say, could we do another special assessment? But the town cannot automatically add that to the current assessment. That's where there's an estimate of the maintenance fees, and if those exceed it, there is some risk on the town's part that we didn't assess enough. Now we're on the hook to make these changes.
Question, regarding that situation, can the town actually come back to us as a community or individually? Because at that stage of the game, we've already addressed the stormwater issues, right? And we no longer have a lien on our homes and whatnot, we're clean. Can the town actually come back to us? Because we don't have an HOA, that's the whole premise. How can the town then come back to us and create a new tax assessment?
The only reason we're allowed to do it in this situation is because there's a specific carve out because of these.
Well, my recommendation could be is like, once this is over with, we've already made this commitment, we've installed all of this. We all feel this has been completely inequitable. I think a lot of people here on the select board have said that as well. Once this is installed and done, is there any way to, wash our hands and say, hey guys, from now on, this is a town owned.
Well, I thought we were gonna go the opposite. The town was gonna wash her hands, but no, sorry. No,
I was gonna answer the question of feasibility, and I think the answer is no. And here's why. This select board cannot tie the hands of a future select
That's a
board.
good point.
It's like, Congress passes a law and then the Congress next year passes a different law. I don't know of a way that says the town will never come and ask you for money again. Maybe there is a way. And I'm not saying any of this is fair to either you or the town, but what I was thinking from the beginning, just to be clear, was if we did a special assessment district over a number of years, let's assume that we're not going to generate $500,000 in 1 year. That is going to be over some period of time to cover the cost, right? And then at that point, all the money goes to pay this off. And then when that's paid off, it sunsets. Some other event happens either in Southview or another place in the future with another select board. I don't know what they do at that point. Maybe the 3-acre rule is gone by that time. I don't know. It's not very reassuring. I just don't know how we can tie the hands of a future select board.
I think Dave might be able to answer better.
David?
Yeah, there's a special assessment district can be created by vote or consent. So in the situation that Josh mentions where a chamber needs to be replaced and, that happens at the end of or near the end of the current district, the select board could put an article on the warning on town meeting day to assess Southview for additional maintenance charges. The Southview residents could consent to that. Or voters could submit a petition signed by 5% to put an article on the ballot for a new special assessment district for Southview. So it is not necessary. There's no this is the special assessment district, and once the project's paid off, it's done. anybody could create a special assessment district to pay for a public improvement at any time. It's very rarely used, but it also very rarely fails when it's on the ballot because you got lots of voters in town and only 48 people that are going to have to pay the assessment.
But there is not a situation in which the assessment district that was created would be modified without consent of everyone. It would have to be a change, so.
Correct. I would never modify the special assessment district once the construction costs and the improvement, once the final costs of the public improvement to be funded by the special assessment district are set, the method of apportionment of that cost is set. It does not change for the term of the assessment. So we've been talking about a 10-year term because that's about, a rough estimate of the life of the public improvement. It might be 20 years, but you cannot change the amount allocated to each property in the district during the course of that particular special assessment district time period. If you're going to pay $10 a quarter on your tax bill in year 1, you have to pay $10 a quarter in year 9.
Thank you. Sarah?
I have 2 questions. One, just kind of going to what Dave was just saying. So when will we start paying, essentially? It sounds like it would be before construction's complete. It sounds more like it would be once sort of the bid's finalized and the numbers a more known amount. But it would be possibly in advance of actually constructing all this. Is that correct?
Dave, what I was sort of assuming once we have those final costs, we would do it, but is there a better time frame answer than what I gave? There might be.
What I would advise is that we do a not to exceed amount for the consent, and the final costs are what the final costs are.
But when would we
They
start that final?
Well, I
cost?
mean, I wouldn't really collect the assessment until the project is complete and for sure exactly what the costs are. But for the purposes of getting everybody's consent, you want to set a not to exceed figure so everybody has a pretty decent idea of what their quarterly estimated payment will be, or annual estimated payment, however we want to break it down.
David, so to do back of the envelope, and this David was just sort of doing that, I think. You could take a certain amount of money and then do, 64%, and then you divide that 48 ways.
Right.
Yeah, Josh and I did this exercise, and you get to like $9 or $10 a quarter if it's $500,000 as the nut, so to speak.
Over
10 years.
What the time?
I thought we looked at it was like, I think it was like $6,000 per property.
It'd be like 150, $200 a quarter.
Which is, I didn't.
10 years, and then if you put that into quarters, it comes out to what, like 100? Just shows.
It's off by $1,500.
Yeah, I didn't do the quarterly breakdown on.
But I'll take.
Yeah, I'll take the quarter.
That's a sweet deal.
$10 a quarter. My second question is, and I think I know the answer, but I still would sort of like it officially answered, is that when we vote in favor of a special assessment district, say it's approved, that the bill is going to be sent to and runs with the property and not with the individuals who own the property, correct?
Right, runs with the property.
Yeah, it runs with the land.
It goes as a property tax. It goes with the property tax bill as an additional.
How would that
Or
be
is it
different than the
separate?
person that owns the property?
Because if the person who owns the property sells the property, then the new
Yeah.
owner would be on the hook for paying
Gotcha,
it off,
yeah.
or, I just wanted to make sure that was 100%.
Okay, you just lost me for a second, but I'm back.
Yeah.
Page, and then I think we gotta cruise on to the next item.
Public improvement is 10 years. I don't know where that.
No.
But my understanding is these.
They're more like 20 or 30 years from what my understanding of once these structures are in. I know he said 10 years. I think I was looking at a 10-year payback on the, I mean, we could go, it's up for conversation. You want to go 20 years on the payback? If you could, you want to do 10 years to get it done quicker. I think it's up for negotiation.
And then I just want to point out the irony of like, you can't tie the hands of the future select board and, I'm not saying this is anything to do with you guys, but the irony of this, that like, when I built my house, I didn't buy it, like, I had, the state is reaching back in time and saying, you're not in compliance anymore.
Alright, so you want to get a draft together and
I think
do
that's,
a draft with the board and the homeowners as soon as we can?
I think so, including the special assessment district details, like,
That's
yeah,
the draft for the
it's gonna be
special
most
assessment
important.
district, yeah.
well, I think, and I think if we did some pro formas in writing, like, if it were X amount of money.
yeah,
What would it actually be over 10 years? What would it actually be over 20
Yeah.
years?
yeah.
There would be some financing costs associated with that, so presumably there's more interest over a longer period of time, right? But to like get down to at least an estimate based on certain assumptions. I guess the bad news is it's not $6 or $10 a quarter, but the good news is it's not $3,000 a quarter, I suppose. It's somewhere in between. It's gonna be a few $100 a quarter. It's at the back of the envelope I had, but I could be wrong.
Ever the realist.
Does that? Mike, your
I
question?
just had one question related to, maybe tying the hands of the folks downstream. When these neighborhoods were built, the roads were initially private and they're taken over by the town at some point. This is fundamentally an infrastructure project. Why wouldn't the same option be available to the town?
Same option of
Like the town will oftentimes take over
the road.
a road in the neighborhood. Would it be possible for the town to take over this infrastructure to take care of the maintenance and long-term maintenance of the system?
That's a reasonable question. There's only currently 3 of us here. What would that look like? I'll tell you honestly, I didn't take over any roads when I was on the select board, but looking in the rear view mirror, it's like, why'd we take over these roads?
Well, we didn't.
Because some of them have turned out to be pretty costly, right?
Yeah.
And that's probably a point that in the context of that road maintenance, this is probably modest in terms of this infrastructure.
I understood the design correctly. Most all of the system is within.
Yes.
Right away.
So that's
The
a question
collection
for us
system,
to
yes.
address. I mean, maybe at the expiration, if the ask would be this, at the expiration of construction or whatever, at some point that the town takes it over as they would a road that's up to town spec. That's really your question.
We would need a town 3-acre stormwater spec. So that we can... Oh, no.
Got one. Right.
Yeah. It seems like in a draft agreement is the next step forward.
Yep.
Is that?
Looks like it.
I would disagree that there'd be an agreement. We can set some terms and provide a draft consent, but we're not signing an agreement with anybody. This is the way it's gonna work, period.
Only if we consent to it though.
Only if we
is
agree
it's
to
going
it though,
work.
so yeah. Okay,
So you want to know what you're consenting to is what it boils down.
yeah, so we need some draft language for you guys to review and decide if
Sure, if we had draft language, and then we could give some input, and then if the select board's open to that input, it could be tweaked slightly before it comes to us for a final consent. That's all.
I'm just trying to help you get it passed.
No, it's
Yeah,
fair.
I think,
I'm trying to at least like make the chances of it.
yeah, if it doesn't
as
pass,
good
it
as they can be,
doesn't
right?
pass, so, yeah, I agree.
That's fair. All right.
Thank you. So on to roads that have been taken over. Consideration of approving a stormwater system maintenance agreement with Greystone Estates residents and association for the 3-acre stormwater permit. And we have another possible executive session regarding that maintenance agreement.
I'm gonna begin recusing myself from this section too. I think as we look at stormwater and policy with the town versus the communities, it's starting to get a little bit gray, if you will. So I'm just gonna recuse myself from this as well.
There's starting to be more overlap for sure.
Yeah.
And I would recommend doing a quick executive session prior to the
Prior?
discussion. I think so, just to
Okay.
hear from Dave prior to that.
Adam, this is David. I move to find the premature public knowledge about attorney-client communications regarding the. I'm on the wrong page.
Greystone Stormwater Agreement.
Greystone Estates Residents Association for a 3-acre stormwater permit would cause the town or person to suffer a substantial disadvantage.
I think that's the wrong one.
So
No, that sounds right.
That's the first one, right? That's the first.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I started with the wrong one,
Oh,
but I finished with the right one.
It's a good thing we have all the experienced people here.
So I need you to second it.
I will second that. Yeah.
Calling to a vote.
David, I.
Bart, I.
Adam, I.
Adam, this is David. I move that we enter into executive session to discuss the stormwater system maintenance agreement with the Greystone Estates Residents Association for a 3-acre stormwater permit under the provisions of 1 VSA 313A1A of the Vermont State Statutes, and to invite Town Manager Josh Arneson and Attorney David Rue into the executive session.
Is Bart, I'll second that.
Calling to a vote.
David, I.
Bart, I.
Adam, I. It was quick. Chelsea had a question, and I'm assuming this is about the previous thing. So I think at this point, Chelsea, there's nothing that would be voted on by the town for the Southview. That doesn't seem to be on the horizon at any point.
Trying to get into this breakout room.
All right. In the interest of keeping this moving, you guys ready for a motion? This Bart, I move to find that premature public knowledge about the stormwater system maintenance agreement with Greystone Estates Residents Association for 3-acre stormwater permit would cause the town or person to suffer a substantial disadvantage.
This is David. I'll second.
All those in favor?
David, I.
Bart, I.
Adam, I.
I'd like to now move that we enter into the executive session to discuss the stormwater system maintenance agreement with Greystone Estates Residents Association for 3-acre stormwater permit under the provisions of 1 VSA 313A1A of the Vermont statutes, and to invite Town Manager Josh Arneson and Attorney Dave Rue into the executive session.
And the two representatives from.
And the two representatives from the Greystone Estates Residents Association.
Okay.
This is David. I'll second.
All those in favor?
David, I.
Bart, I.
Adam, I.
Thank you for that. Totally spaced it.
We're back in.
All right.
Are we on to?
Sorry.
Hey, Greg.
No worries. Let's go.
Yeah. Hey, good.
We're on to I, consideration of increasing the pay grid for the police department. And it sounds like Bart is recusing himself because he may know someone
who is an applicant for our police department.
Can we go over this?
Hi.
Hello. Isn't that nice? A different view.
I'm gonna proceed.
I guess, I don't know, dude. We've gone over this
Yeah.
previously. We came up with a few different increases. Matt, is there anything additional you would like to add? I saw the stuff you admitted.
I think maybe we want to give a quick background. Since
Sure,
last time we
yeah.
were done in the executive session, now it's in public session. So this is a discussion about increasing the pay grade for police in Richmond. Last time was an executive session because it would be something that would be negotiated with union members. However, we don't have any, I want to get the terminology wrong, but active union members who are police officers in the town of Richmond at this time, because Matt was our one member. He's been promoted to interim chief, which excludes him from negotiating terms of the contract or making any changes. So the board went into executive session to discuss a potential increase to the wage. Came up with a number that they wanted to look at. We sent a memo to the union to say this is what we're planning to do. Please get back with any comment prior to our next meeting. I've received no comment back from the union other than to say that they had received the proposal. So that's why it's now back on public session. The number that the board discussed was increasing the wage grade by 20%, and that was based on statistics from surrounding departments, including, I think it was Williston and was it Essex?
It was Williston, Essex, and Milton.
So based on those, it looked like a 20% increase would keep us relevant. And I think for a little background, even more, I think it was 2 years ago, the board voted to match Williston, but in that time, Williston now renegotiated their contract. They have increased their wages even more. So this keeps us a little bit ahead of Williston to try to continue to compete wage-wise for officers. So that's the background. That's why it's back in front of the board here in public session.
And this is also, I mean, I think anyone who's been reviewing our budget over the last two meetings has seen that the police budget started out initially as extremely high, and it's for a number of reasons. Replacing, there's some police cruiser revamping that needed to happen to hopefully get up to full staff, but also this pay increase was obviously a big portion of that, and we were careful about presenting that while the union piece was going on. So this would be reflected in the current budget and the discussions that are happening, you know, on December 8th.
Yep.
Matt, do you have anything you would like to add?
Yeah. So first, I'd like to show appreciation to the select board for the support of the police department. And I hope our town members also know that support in our police department by adjusting the pay scales to be comparable to other agencies. Goes a long way when it comes to recruiting. When I can go out to our officers and say, hey, the town is supportive of running a police department. The town is looking at doing what is needed so we can be successful. It does go a long way. So I really do appreciate the board coming back and saying this is where we need to go. And I also want to put that message out to our members of the town. And then the other piece is I would like to help have people put out, as you know, word of mouth. It's Vermont, you know, people that you know, and say, hey, we made this change, and get the word out that we've made this change to adjust the pay so that everyone knows. And that will also help spread the word and help get recruits in the door.
I think the last piece I would like to touch on that we talked about pretty extensively in the executive session, I think we have touched on outside of that, is that, you know, Matt's talked about this, he can speak to it better, but there's a huge cost to train an officer who has no experience or even has minimal experience and needs to get trained up to the level that they can actually be on their own doing the duties of a police officer in Richmond. And so Richmond's had a model for a lot of years, probably long before I even lived here. It's like decades we're talking, where we would get officers fresh and either send them to the academy or get them fresh out of the academy and then train them and spend the time and money that goes along with that. And there's, you know, that adds up to many tens of thousands of dollars of man hours and training to get someone to the point that they can then become a police and then do the actual duties. So they're on the job getting paid. They're not able to do those duties self-sufficiently. And so paying more and getting people who are qualified and then want to stick around. So those people would often leave after they put in their 1 year after. We are paying, you know, 2 years of salary to get 1 year of service. So this is actually 6 months. So this is while it's a big increase, could potentially actually, you know, if we're looking at it, not dollars per police officer here, but dollars of police officer
on shift
patrolling and police officer on shift, this actually could be a pretty large reduction.
We spent a lot of money trying to save a couple of bucks.
And I mean, the total number of police officers, right now we have Matt. If we were to add 2 police officers that could be on duty, that would be a huge increase versus adding, you know, 4 officers that are in 2 are in training. I mean, so this is an effort to get officers who are trained and also to keep officers who are trained and have a stable police department of some size moving forward.
That was the hell of it. For a year, 18 months, we were paying for an officer who wasn't on shift doing the job. And then as soon as they got 6 months to a year of experience, they left.
Yeah, and I don't remember, Matt can speak to the numbers better, but when Matt, he laid it out and explained how he calculated, you know, the total cost to train that officer and the total number of actual hours or months that they were on shift doing the job. It's pretty, it was pretty stark contrast to the amount we expect, as a community member, I thought I was getting out of that. So it's like 2-to-1 hours they were here versus hours they were doing stuff.
But I'm sure neighboring communities appreciated that we trained their officers for
It's
them.
not that we don't want to continue training officers. We want to continue, we want to do
Our
continuing ed. We don't want to do baseline training for all the surrounding towns.
Yeah.
So all that to say, we have a proposal to increase the pay grade. What would you like?
Adam, this is David. I move to approve the increase to the fiscal year 26 police department wage grid.
You know what, maybe probably should add 20% into that motion.
By 20%.
There you go.
This is Caitlin, I'll second.
Do we have any further discussion or any questions from anyone? Members of the public or one in-person public member? Calling to a vote.
David, I.
Caitlin, I.
Adam, I. Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
Appreciate all your work on this.
Thank you, everyone.
Next, we have a public hearing to consider amendments to the traffic ordinance. This is to set the public hearing, right?
So we're doing the public hearing.
Oh, this is a public
This
hearing
is a
today.
public
Oh, I misread that. I'm the.
Adam, this is David. I
No,
move to open the
no, I-
public hearing to consider the
Amendments, yeah.
traffic ordinance.
Sorry. So yeah, this is you open the hearing, you do the hearing, you close the hearing.
Perfect. And this is, go ahead, sorry.
Caitlin, I'll second.
All those in favor?
David, I.
Bart, aye.
Caitlin, I.
Adam, I. So I misspoke. This is the actual public hearing.
This is the
And
public
if
hearing.
You want to go over the changes, Josh?
So there's one more motion that according to statute, the ordinance and changes must be read aloud, or just the title can be read if the select board votes to do so. So if you forego reading the entire ordinance aloud, I will provide a summary of the changes.
Adam, this is David. I move to forego the reading of the entire ordinance aloud and to read only the title.
This is Bart, I'll second it.
All those in favor?
David, I.
Bart, aye.
Caitlin, I.
Adam, nay. I just knew that it would pass anyway, so I could do that.
Always wanted to do that.
So please read just the title aloud, Jack.
Sure. So this is a summary of changes to the traffic ordinance, which I'm displaying on the screen here. So section 6A, did that not transition? Sorry, 6AB authorizes the highway department to post no parking signs for parades and events. I think I failed to underline that.
Is there any change in B?
Yeah.
Because it's,
There should have been, and I think,
Authorizes highway department.
yeah, I don't know why,
Working signs. for
6A. and then it's B.
B, highway, yeah.
So I think we added the highway department to this part here.
Okay.
I'm sorry that I.
Yeah, authorizes the highway department.
Yeah, so it authorizes the highway department or town manager to temporarily close or adjust the duration. 6AE. Oh, no, there it is, sorry. It's written wrong in my memo. It's 6AC. Authorize Richmond Police and the Town of Richmond Highway Department, which is in red and underlined, apologies, to authorize to post signs to prohibit parking during parades or other public events. Then 6AE authorizes certified law enforcement officers, the Richmond Constable and the Richmond Highway Department and Assistant Foreman to have illegally parked vehicles towed. And then it removes the stipulation for the select board to set a not to exceed rate for towing. So what this does is it allows the road foreman during the winter, during plowing, have a car towed if it's parked illegally rather than have to contact the police officer to have that happen. And then in practice, the board has not been setting a not to exceed amount for towing, and with the limited amount of tow companies, we're happy if one shows up when we need them. So those are the changes.
So I think these are the initial basic set of changes that we would like to put in place to help ease Pete's job in the winter. There is another set of changes I know that were talked about that would be proposed at a later date. So this is just the changes specifically to the road foreman, the road department, highway department's abilities.
We threw in constable too, right?
Yes.
And constable, yes.
Yeah. But yeah, the more The changes that are more closely associated with recreation parking are being currently reviewed by the parking committee, and I imagine they will be coming back with a recommendation based on the research they've been doing for the last couple of years.
And this was just an easy way to get Pete's, to give him the power to do this stuff ahead of the plowing season, although we seem to have missed that.
Yeah, so unfortunately, it won't be in place until January 16th. But at least it gives him the second half of winter to have that authority. But for the next 60 days, he would have to call Matt to have a car towed if the car was in the way. There's Matt waving to us.
Matt is waving. He's aware that he will be on call every time it snows.
Yeah, fortunately, I don't think Pete's really good about working around things. And then, I think he'll only tow cars if he absolutely has to. But there are times when I believe that there are cars that are parked that he needs to do something.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions, concerns, thoughts? Anyone in the public? Questions, concerns, thoughts?
Mr. Chairman, this is David. I move to close the public hearing.
Is Bart, I second that.
All those in favor?
David, I.
Bart, I.
Caitlin, I.
Adam, I.
Mr. Chairman, this is David. I move to adopt the amendments to the traffic ordinance as presented.
Is Bart, I will second that.
A motion and a second. Is there any further discussion before we adopt these amendments? All those in favor?
David, I.
Bart, I.
Caitlin, I.
Adam, I. Next, we have consideration of approving the 2025 Grand List Errors and Omissions Report. Do you want to give a synopsis of
Yeah.
what this is, Josh?
Let me just pull it up. So. Wrong one. Errors and emissions report. Okay. All right, so the grand list is finalized based on changes to properties as of April 1st of each year. If there are changes to properties that were made prior to April 1st that come to the attention of the assessor after the April 1st date, then an errors and omissions report is issued. The affected properties will receive a new tax bill for FY26 based on the changes. So the report's included in the packet. I'm showing it on the screen here. I'll make it a little larger. I realize that that's fairly small. So in this report, the affected changes will decrease the grand list value from $8,027,181 to $8,026,002. The changes were as follows. A property had a land grade change after subdivision, which created an unimproved lot, which is valued less than the improved lot. So that's this part here. Change in property value from VT Transco property from 0 to 5,000. This is for a communication system that the Department of Taxes decided were now taxable. This communication system did not exist before 2025. VT Transco is the entity that manages the high voltage transmission lines in Richmond. So this is for their communication equipment that's on that land. A property opted into the veterans exemption, which decreases grand list on the property value by $40,000. And there's a current use exemption that did not change, which is down here at the bottom. So three changes.
What would we like to do with this?
This is Bart. I'd like to move to approve the 2025 Grand List Errors and Omissions Report.
Caitlin, I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
David, I.
Bart, I.
Caitlin, I.
Adam, I. Next, we have an an update on the progress. Making updates to the guidelines for the Richmond Selectboard Rules of Procedure.
We met, we saw, we conquered.
It sounds like you started to conquer, but you might need more time to fully conquer.
Yes. We met, we saw. We hope to conquer later.
We had a good discussion. I think we need at least one more meeting before we come back to the board with recommendations, but wanted to provide an update that we're moving forward, just not as rapidly as we may have hoped, but I think we'll have a good product when we come back to the board.
Yep.
Focused mostly on public comment was our first foray into this. And how to
We will,
look at Robert's
at a
rules.
later meeting, we'll open up your changes to public comment, up to public comment.
Wonderful.
Excellent.
Sounds great.
Thank you for doing that. that sounds like a pretty thankless, having to do other procedural reviews of the select board.
It was a lovely
policies.
conversation.
Yeah.
Marshall, thank you, Marshall, for being part of that as well. It was nice to have.
Yes,
Marshall's back.
agreed.
Great. Next, we have probably one of the most consequential long-term things we'll do in this meeting. Consideration of setting 2 public hearings for the 2026 town plan. That wasn't a joke. This is actually very consequential for the town long-term. Doesn't play out for a long time.
Well, at least for the next 8 years, folks. Good evening. I do have, we do have a requirement to have 2 town board, select board meetings for the town plan because we are a town that has a population greater than 2,500. And as such, you are required to have 2 meetings. I was under the impression you only needed 1, so I was wrong. But with that said, I do want to offer some dates if the planning commission, you can tell it's late, the select board is amenable to the dates. The first date or first meeting that I would offer would be December 29th. With the second meeting being the week of January 11th, but actually it would be either the 13th, which is a Tuesday, 14th, which is a Wednesday, or 15th, which is a Wednesday of January. So the process goes, I have to warn the select board planning of the select board public hearing 30 days in advance. The second meeting only needs to be warned 15 days in advance. So that's why we're dealing with this type of lag. So I guess the first question is the 29th amenable? If not, I would throw out January 5th as the first meeting.
And the 5th would be, so the 29th would be a special board meeting, where the only thing on there would be the town plan. The downside to this is it's right between Christmas and New Year's, which can tend to be a busy time for people. The next meeting would be January 5th, which would be a regularly scheduled select board meeting. So I'm not sure how long the hearing might take, but it could take an hour is probably a relatively safe guess, if not more.
I would say at a minimum, yes.
So yeah, it would just be added to the agenda. It would take longer.
I cannot do the 29th.
I cannot do the 29th.
I suspect I cannot do the 29th. So
let's kick
that?
So the next scenario is January 5th, and this is all to meet the requirements of getting the town plan on the ballot on the 22nd of January.
Sure.
So that's why we're truncating this. So January 5th, which is your regular first meeting of the year. This would probably take at least an hour, I would suspect, maybe more. And then the following meeting would have to be the January 21st, which is the Wednesday. As you can see, the day before the required ballot measure gets placed on the ballot.
Is there a time required between the meetings, Keith?
15 days minimum.
Okay.
What was the second date?
20, we have to do 21st.
21st.
Could we do it the 20th, or does that not work?
That gets you to 14 days. So you need to get to the 21st. Wait, hang on a sec. I used to know how to count. What do I have here? I have January 13th, 14th, or 15th. Bear with me. Nope, 21st is pretty solid.
It has to be 15 days exactly?
Correct.
No, I think it has to be at least 15. So I think that gets us, what, the 15th day would be the 20th. So you have to go on the 16th or later, is how I'm reading it, Keith?
That's correct.
So it would be the 21st.
So I can't do the 21st. I could do the 22nd.
I think the 22nd is our deadline to get it on the ballot.
I can do the, I see no reason I can't do the 21st.
Yeah.
Okay. And David?
Yeah, I can do it.
All right, so January 5th and January 21st.
At 7?
That'll be our main requirement when we appoint someone in the select board is, can you be here on the 21st?
There you go.
So just a quick message. I mean, this is all tailored towards getting that on the ballot for March
Yeah.
4th.
Yeah.
There's no requirement that has to be done there. We could have a special election or a special meeting on that. And or it could be kicked out to November. The preference is obviously to get this done prior to any special meeting or anything along those lines, and specifically towards November. But if it doesn't work, we do have bailouts on it. So
I mean, I think that getting it done at just purely for voter turnout, we should get it done either on town meeting day or on November election day, just to encourage high turnout, and then earlier sounds better, so. Is the earlier, I'm assuming the earlier date is advantageous for the planning commission too, so they can move on with other planning tasks?
yes, that's also part of it too. We could still go on with planning tasks up until November 5th. We'd still be eligible. But regardless of that, this would just reset everything for us if we can get it through on the 4th of March.
And it also gives us a backup if it doesn't pass for some reason.
Correct.
Great. So would someone like to make a motion with the 5th and the 21st?
Adam, this is David. I move to set a public hearing for the 2026 town plan for January 5th, 2026.
It's Caitlin, I'll second.
It's January 5th and January 21st.
Yeah, I was going to do a second motion for the second one.
We have a motion for the January 5th meeting. Any more discussion? There's a motion, a second. Any more discussion?
David, I.
Bart, I.
Caitlin, I.
Adam, I.
Adam, this is David. I move to set a second public hearing for the 2026 town plan for January 21st, 2026.
This is Bart, I'll second that.
A motion, a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
David, I.
Bart, I.
Caitlin, I.
Adam, I. Thank you, Keith.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Have a good evening. What's left of it?
Thank you.
Adam, this is David. I move to approve the minutes from November 3rd, 2025 meeting.
This is Bart.
Caitlin, second that.
We have a motion, a second. All those in favor?
David, I.
Bart, I.
Caitlin, I.
Adam, I.
Adam, this is David. I move to approve the minutes from the November 4th, 2025 meeting.
This is Bart, I'll second.
All those in favor?
David, I.
Bart, I.
Caitlin, I.
Adam, I.
Adam, this is David. I move to approve the minutes from the November 10th, 2025 meeting.
This is Bart, I'll second.
All those in favor?
David, I.
Bart, I.
Caitlin, I.
Adam, abstain. And we have purchase orders and warrants. I would assume you'd like to do the purchase orders first.
Yes, please.
Adam, this is David. I move to approve purchase order 5184 to Cargill Salt for road salt in the amount of $99,997.50. And I just want to point out that this is the only vendor we can use.
This is Bart, I'll second.
All those in favor?
David, I.
Bart, I.
Caitlin, I.
Adam, I.
For $2.50, I'm glad it's under 100,000.
100,000 is the budgeted number, which is why Pete puts it up to the max so that he can use it all winter.
But that's not up to the max.
Well,
There's a cup of coffee on there.
He likes to give himself a little wiggle.
Someone got coffee on the way to get to the salt.
99 point,
$99.
well, it's based on what it is per ton.
Sure.
So, yeah, I
Tablespoon.
guess you could buy $2.50 more of salt.
It's not,
It's enough to season your fried chicken or whatever you're making, but not enough to really do much. So anyway, and yeah, the salt contracts are tough this year. I mean, I keep seeing state updates. I don't think any place even bid on District 5
No.
from what I saw. You saw the
No.
same update? Yeah,
didn't even bid on it.
they gave some bids for some municipalities and other districts, but there was like, do you see that update? It was like maybe 20 towns, but nobody, we're in District 5, which is like Chittenden County. There was no prices provided for municipalities in Chittenden County.
This is it.
So yeah, it's really tough market.
There's some vendors in Canada, but
Good for Cargill. Yeah, but really looking at that, the state price, I think it was like 88 to 105 was sort of the range. So 99, it's in the range of the prices the state was getting for other districts. And I think a lot of it probably has to do, I imagine, with travel and where they're gonna go.
Yeah.
But I don't I don't know for sure. I don't claim to be an expert on salt pricing, but that's what I understand. So on to tasers.
we
No,
vote?
sorry, cruiser cameras.
Did we vote on the salt?
Um, maybe just vote to make it.
did.
I thought we did.
Aye.
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 I just say, sorry.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve purchase order 5274 to Axon Enterprises for dash cameras for police cruisers in the amount of $25,218.
Does Bart, I'll second. How many dash cameras is that?
So this gets you 2 cameras with a 5-year contract on each, and it, what is it, Fleet 3 camera system, so it's enough to outfit the car that we're currently using and 1 more car that, you know, presumably for a new officer. And then the idea is once we replace the car, or if we get a 3rd officer, then get the next one. We're paying this in full because we have this in the capital plan, whereas when we do body cameras or tasers, it's a similar contract where it's a 5-year agreement, but we usually space that out in the budget rather than when we purchase a cruiser, we like to just outfit and put everything in.
So this is the whole package that downloads to the cloud, stores everything.
Yep.
It's not just a camera.
Not just the camera, this gets you the support system as well, yes.
Links to YouTube.
Yeah.
We have a motion a second, I believe, right?
David, aye.
Bart, aye.
Adam, aye.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the purchase order 5358 to Magnan Excavation LLC for the EWP Stream Bank Stabilization Project on Governor Peck Road in the amount of $35,607.
Does Bart, I'll second it.
We have a motion in a second. I guess we'll point out. This is a pass through, right?
Yeah, this is a grant that's a pass-through from the town, through the town. It's for improvements on a property on Governor Peck Road to armor the stream bank behind their property that was eating away at their property, threatening their septic. The grant runs through the town. It's 100% reimbursable. So even though the town pays for this and has to do a lot of legwork to organize it, we'll submit this expense to EWP and get that reimbursed.
Thank you. We have a motion in a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
David, aye.
Bart, aye.
Adam, aye.
Mr. Chair, this is David. I move to approve the warrants as presented.
Does Bart, I'll second.
Motion in a second. All those in favor?
David, aye.
Bart, aye.
Adam, aye. That does not wrap up our meeting.
Getting closer.
We have 1 item left, which will be an executive session.
You want to talk about any items for next agenda?
Oh, yeah, let's do that first, I guess, right? We have people here.
Just keep in mind, it's a short week next week, so we'll add things, but I'm gonna post this on Tuesday. Next week,
Because
because it's
gotcha.
Thanksgiving, I'm gonna be off
Yeah.
Wednesday and Thursday and Friday, so my goal is to get this thing posted Tuesday night or maybe bright early Wednesday. But I think it's gonna limit a bit what we can add to the agenda, but I think there's probably some things that need to come back, like both stormwaters, assuming we have a draft. You didn't call it an agreement, a draft consent form for Southview that we can review. If we don't have that, we may not break
I
Southview.
just want to point out, it's very important that the Southview residents do not agree to it. They must consent to it.
Apparently,
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I think
legally,
if we
it feels-
draft, we'll bring it back. If we don't have it, I don't think there's any reason to put it on December 1st.
There was something I just saw in here that, well, we can.
And I guess we'll put Greystone on there probably just as a touch base, even if it's an executive session for the board.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Um,
Oh, we should do a notification or solicitation of applicants for.
yeah, but we should call a special meeting
We'll have to call.
later this week to get the notice
Do you
out.
want to pick that time now, or do you want
To do what?
special meeting to formally post the notification of a resignation from the board?
Oh, yeah.
We need to do it within
I'm sorry.
10
We should do
days,
that
which will
ASAP.
not make it to our 2-week meeting, so we'll have to.
But we need 24 hours to notice a special meeting, so it couldn't be tomorrow, but it could be Wednesday or Thursday of this week if you guys have time and.
I can do Wednesday up until 6, not after 6.
Okay.
I can do, if we did it during the day, I can do it at any time.
Wednesday at noon would work.
Wednesday at noon would work.
Wednesday at noon would work.
Awesome for me.
Okay, let me see what my time looks like.
I will dial in, so if we.
Yeah, I could zoom into that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could hold down the in-person. Let me find my calendar though.
19th at 12.
Should work, I think. Early, 24 hours. Can I get that out in the morning? Hold on a second. Oh, fuck. Yeesh. Just thinking, getting the notice out, my morning looks a little jammed tomorrow, so it should be a quick notice. Could you guys do Thursday at noon, or is that worse?
I can do that. I can do Thursday or
I
Friday.
could also do Thursday at noon.
That would just give me a little more time to get a notice out, and I'd appreciate that.
Already put it
Yeah,
in my
I can do that.
already put it in my calendar, Josh.
I'm sorry.
Change the date.
Okay.
Perfect. So we're 20th
Again.
at 12. Great.
And we just need the one agenda item, I think, right?
Yeah.
And maybe think about dates for when we'll have to discuss all that in the notice anyway. So perfect. That gives me tomorrow into Wednesday morning to get the notice out. And yeah, my morning.
And so
Be challenging.
the agenda that would be to accept the resignation and then to set a date by which we would need to receive applications.
Yeah.
And set another date by which we would decide and make an appointment.
Yeah, so basically you'd approve the notice, you would say you would fill this vacancy at your whatever meeting you want to do it. You're accepting letters of interest by whatever date. And then we can discuss that at the meeting.
It's good.
Awesome.
Indeed, and I can send you a draft if you want. I'll send you a draft tomorrow, and if you have changes, we'll post it Wednesday morning, and that gives us time.
Sounds good.
Great.
Anything else? I would entertain a motion to enter executive session.
Mr. Chairman, this is David. I move to find that premature public knowledge about a personnel matter would cause the town or person to suffer a substantial disadvantage.
Is Caitlin all second?
All those in favor?
David, I.
Bart abstain.
Caitlin, I.
Adam, I.
Mr. Chairman, this is David. I move that we enter into executive session to discuss a personnel matter under the provisions of 1 VSA 313A3 of the Vermont State Statutes and to invite Town Manager Josh Arneson into the executive session.
Caitlin, all second.
All those in favor?
David, I.
Bart abstain.
Caitlin, I.
Adam, I.
Bard, since you're abstaining, are you gonna leave?
I am recusing myself from this executive session.
Are you going to stay here?
I was thinking I might leave. This is the last business, right?
You wanna just sign these and then
Yeah.
leave them for the other members to sign?
I
the
absolutely do.
If there's anything after this, they have a pull up. Sure, so.
Perfect. Hey, that would be ugly, right?
Just leave them.
You can't adjourn.
Just sitting here waiting for you to show back up in the morning.
Please send us seltzers and
All right, that. Okay. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
See ya.
Josh, once again, thanks for keeping all these balls in the air.
All right, we need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. We are adjourned. We'll see you on Thursday
Thursday at noon if you'd
at
like.
noon for a special meeting.
That meeting is December 1st. All right.